Attendance roll call.
Tracy Blair,
Here.
Sandra Boss,
Here.
Brett Hyde,
Here.
Chris Buckmaster.
Here.
Terry Boyer.
Here.
Bob Bowman is absent but excused. And I'm here, so we have 6, we have a quorum.
Thank you. This meeting was noticed in accordance with our state's open meeting law. If everyone would please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance and rise. Mr. Schrader, would you lead us off?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sir. Item D, approval of agenda. Motion is in order.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved as is. Item 2, consent agenda. Motion is in order to approve the consent agenda in gross unless a board member wants to remove an item.
So moved.
Second.
We're good? Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda as is signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved in gross. Moving on to item 3, student representation. Ashley?
Hello, everybody. So over the summer, our school had a few large events. The high school hosted a fair at the fields on August 22nd, and local vendors from around Muskego were free to enter the fair and sell their goods on the football field and around. Over the summer, our hallways of the high school were redecorated with different paintings to show our warrior pride. Our high school marching band, Palms team, and cheer squad performed in the Muskego annual parade on August 25th, and the Warriors 101 program was going on throughout the school on August 29th for incoming freshmen. And then a few things during the school year is that on the first day of school, our student council had a first day of school pep rally showing the incoming freshmen all the excitement Muskego has to offer. Muskego had our annual club fair on September 6th to advertise the various clubs we have around the school. And obviously our football team is now 4-0, and our next game is going to be at Oconomowoc in this May.
Any questions for Ashley? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Item 4, superintendent's report. Dr. Thompson.
Well, we get to start by recognizing one of our own, Mr. Ryan McMillan, if you want to join us up there. Microphone. We have 3 recognitions. So first of all, we will start with the Award of Excellence. If you want to hold that. Yes. And we will, oopsie, read the first recognition.
Okay, Certificate of Appreciation. Muskego Norway School Board congratulates Ryan McMillan on leading Muskego High School to be honored as one of the 27 high schools to meet the criteria to be named recipients of the WIAA Award of Excellence. This award recognizes member schools for their efforts and achievements in the areas of sportsmanship, ethics, integrity, leadership, and character. The Muskego Norway School Board extends its appreciation to the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association for recognizing Ryan McMillan, who was presented with the Award of Excellence and certificate at the fall WIAA area meeting. Muskego High School will also be recognized for the achievement on the WIAA website, in the WIAA bulletin, and at the annual meeting. Presented here on the 16th day of September 2019 and signed by the officers of the school board. Congratulations.
And you can show everybody the beautiful award that you received. And so when was the last time Muskego High School or an athletic director was recognized in Muskego for this?
This is the first time.
First time. Okay, now 40 under 40.
Okay, Certificate of Appreciation. The Muskego Norway School Board congratulates Ryan McMillan on being recognized by the Milwaukee Business Journal as 40 under 40. This prestigious recognition identifies individuals who are 40 who are making a difference in their industries as well as communities. The Muskego Norway School Board commends Ryan McMillan. Ryan has been acknowledged for Muskego Norway schools blossoming into one of the most formidable programs in Wisconsin. In 2018, Muskego won 6 state championships, as well as numerous conference sportsmanship awards and student-athlete achievement recognition. The Muskego Norway School Board extends its thanks to the Milwaukee Business Journal for recognizing Ryan McMillan on his shared decision-making model of operation that has brought success attributed to all great people in the warrior culture. Presented on the 16th day of September 2019 and signed by the officers of the school board. Congratulations, Ryan.
And to round out this trifecta, we have Women of Will, the WOW Award.
You okay, Ryan? Good. Okay. All right. So, Certificate of Achievement. The Muskego Norway School Board congratulates Ryan McMillan on being recognized by the BSN Sports as a recipient of the inaugural Women of Will WOW Hall of Fame Awards. This award recognizes the top 5 athletic directors across the country based on their commitment to the WOW mission and overall ability to empower women's athletics in their schools. The Muskego Norway School Board commends Ryan McMillan. Women of Will is the first national sponsorship program for women high school sports teams. The Muskego Norway School Board extends its gratitude to BSN Sports for recognizing Ryan McMillan for representing the best of the WOW program, and presented this 16th day of September 2019, signed by the officers of the school board. Congratulations.
You know, all these awards are great, but they don't happen without great people, and we are truly blessed as a community, as a school system, to have a great school board, great leadership within our district office, phenomenal students, phenomenal teachers, and phenomenal parents, and I think, and a phenomenal business district that has helped support a lot of the changes around here within our athletics and our academics. And without all of those groups working together, these awards never happen. So really, these are school district awards. I know my name gets attached to it, but it's good for all, and thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Ryan, you did it.
I'll hold your awards.
We'll do one each for each separate picture.
Thank you, Tony.
Why don't you grab at least the middle one?
All right. There you go. This will be good, Ryan.
Ready? Oh, I can get the projector. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's good.
Congrats, Ryan. Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah. It's not often you have to tell people to hold the applause for the end.
Okay, next is our weather ready, that Jeremiah, storm ready federal certification. So Jeremiah, take it away.
As I said, invite up meteorologist, and meteorologist Tim Paula. You're a meteorologist, right?
I am a meteorologist.
All right. Despite what you may think, he is a meteorologist. So actually, Kelly and I get emails from Tim daily, sometimes hourly, regarding storm concerns throughout the state. They really do help us keep track of the timing of storms that are coming, so it's been awesome to partner with him through this process. So this process really has taken us years to attain. It started a couple years ago with Tim Grecki, our high school operations supervisor, partnering with Mark McGinnis and going through an audit of our current storm plans. So we always all had the traditional, what do you do during a tornado? You hunker down in a hallway or someplace else. But we learned that a hallway isn't the best place to be hunkering. So we looked at everything from a holistic point of view and really retooled our entire plan. So attached to the agenda item is our plan. And interestingly enough, we did it at a weird time where we were building 2 new schools, so we had to make new plans for those schools as well. So with that, I'll let Mark kind of explain a little bit more about the process that we went through.
Thank you, Jeremiah. The process, as Jeremiah said, took a little bit of time because of construction referendums, which is totally fine. Let me tell you about where the school district has gone in the last 2 years. You now have shelters identified in every building that the school district owns and operates. With also visible signage on those. Those shelters have been approved not only by one meteorologist, but a federal meteorologist of the National Weather Service as well. You know, we understand schools aren't built for tornado protection, but we have identified the best places to put people within the school district. There's also been an educational process with this as far as athletics after school. It's great that school districts in our state do a tornado drill twice a year. Unfortunately, you're preparing for something that you think is going to conveniently happen between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. But tornadoes, specifically in our county, the average tornado is at 5:12 in the afternoon, and you don't have a drill, at least you didn't 2 years ago, for the 5:12 most likely tornado to happen. You now do. Your coaches know what to do. We've enhanced your communications, your ability to not only to communicate out on the field and within the school and within the school district, but you now have coaches receiving those who are now trained to it, whereas before they probably weren't, and they probably couldn't have identified the shelters as well. So you're in a much better position moving forward, and that is the process that you have now received as far as being recognized by the federal government as storm ready.
And Ryan, I'm sorry, this award is not for you. But Storm Ready, which is what I've got here, is the program that the National Weather Service has that recognizes cities, communities, organizations that go above and beyond to be prepared for when severe weather happens. You want to be thinking about your plans on the days where it's nice like today, and not on the days where it's 11 o'clock, school's about to have lunch, and all of a sudden a tornado warning comes out, and now you're like, what do we do with 800 kids in this school? Are they in the right spot? You don't want to be thinking about those things on those days. You want to do it ahead of time. So this recognizes the work that Jeremiah, Tim, everybody did here to try to get the schools ready and prepared. I mean, everybody wants their kids to be safe, and this is a threat that we have here in Wisconsin. So it's not a whole lot, but it's a little plaque that we have for the school to say, congratulations and thank you for making sure everybody's safe for when severe weather happens. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It would be nice if we could put one in each school to signify.
That each one of them.
We're going to make this a cell. Just kidding. Shift it a little that way, we get a little better luck, right?
Jeremiah, do you want us up there?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm in trouble now.
Photo ops, they're like my thing, right?
there.
So here, I'll stay right. We're good.
Okay, yeah.
This is good. Is that good? Here we go. Is that good? Okay, you're good?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Good job, Jeremiah.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
Congratulations.
The next item on in the superintendent's report is summer school numbers. Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Thompson. We're excited to share that our summer school program continues to grow year after year. And after we had a record high number of student participants last year, one would have never thought that we could continue to grow the program yet again this year. In large part, we saw a significant increase in our, over the years, in our, what I would say are advanced learner classes or extra classes that we typically didn't offer. They were intervention support classes typically, but we really have expanded learning opportunities for our students. This past year, our high school offered some additional courses, like an ACT prep course, as well as a student essay writing course, so that when students are getting ready for their college application, they have an essay that's already revised, written, and ready to submit with their college application. So really excited to see the continued growth in our summer school program. I actually attached a graphic for you to see the trend over time from 2013 all the way through 2019. Hard to believe that back in 2013, we were roughly around 700 students in our program, and now in 2019, we're over 2,200 students. So we've grown exponentially over really a short period of time, and year after year, we continue to grow. So that's exciting for our students because we're providing more learning opportunities for them and some additional learning that doesn't happen necessarily during the course of the school year. But also there's a financial side of things. So I've also attached a graphic that shows the number of FTE by year that we've continued to get with our summer school program. Really what that equates to is additional monies that the district gets over the course of time. So we'll get some of that monies next year with our, or this year with our 2019-20 budget, but we'll also see some additional aid support in our 2020-21 budget. So really a huge celebration for our district to see what's happening over time. And really want to give a special shout out to our summer school administrators that put in countless hours to be able to make this happen for our students and for our community. Those administrators are Ken Dunbar, who does a large part of the work for the high school. John McEwing, Chad Krupar, and Laura Shanahan this past year did the brunt of the work for our K-8 students. So they've been the champions behind the work, and through their tireless efforts continue to make great things happen for our kids in the district.
How many course offerings do we have now for summer school? Ballpark.
Wow.
A lot.
Yeah.
Lots in the ballpark.
We could go back, it's in board docs because we bring those forward for board approval.
It could be as many as
Just so many.
50, 60 courses. Yeah.
Is strength and conditioning one of those courses? Because there's at least 300-400.
Yes, and that used to be a
Park and Rec.
and so we're, smarter with those kinds of things too, so. Yes, so lots.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. Next item is just a reminder that, or not a reminder, it's to let you know that the WASB Regional 11 meeting, its annual meeting, is going to be held at the Holiday Inn in Pewaukee on October 29th. So if you're interested, let Jamie know and she can get you registered.
I need at least one person because I'm up for election again.
Oh, are you?
I will be going.
I'll be going.
Jamie?
It's usually very informative, plus the dinner is pretty
Sure.
decent.
Yep, so I'll
So
be
Terry
going.
and Chris, for sure, to register.
You better put me down too,
Yeah,
And Brett?
I'm available.
Got to vote for Brett.
And Tracy.
maybe.
There's 4 votes for you.
There you go.
Well, we only get one.
I don't know,
in
you
this
get one
district.
for district, yeah. All right, next item is the 1920 school year, just kind of providing you with an overarching sort of view of how we prepare our staff members for coming into the 1920 school year. So we have new staff orientation. We had a number of board members join us for that. We have a summer institute where we have professional development for teachers very much around curricular aspects. We also have professional development days, which are primarily around building efforts to get teachers and staff ready for the beginning of the year. We also had a national speaker, Shelley Moore, come to talk about inclusive education, which was outstanding. And we always, we have come to a new tradition to visit each building site and share with them, how thankful we are for the efforts that they put in to ready themselves for the school year, and then just acknowledgement of the work ahead to make sure students are prepared and all the efforts from everybody around. And so we put our videos in there, which were bookended in our, we just stop in for 20, 30 minutes in each site. Also, just notation about the start of the year with the new transportation service. We knew that this was going to be tough. We had a process through which Dairyland was the winning bid. We also have, I'm sorry, Pat Starkin here, who supported the district through the transition and worked with Julie primarily around going through the process of selecting a company. It is big work and didn't want to leave any stones unturned. So thanks, Pat, for being there along the way and continuing to be there. We very much appreciate that. But he's available for any questions also. But I'll just give a little an overview of the write-up that I had in my report. So Dairyland is our provider. You need a routing system. Typically, routing systems are purchased and utilized through the transportation company. We chose to purchase TransFinder on our own and then essentially have Dairyland use TransFinder so that if we were to go through another change, we would own all of that data and we would be able to kind of take that, and it wouldn't be as big of a deal as it is this time around, really creating all those new routes and going through that process. And then the third component of this is Infinite Campus, which is the software, and it integrates with TransFinder, and it's a whole process thing. And then that's what the information is shared out with parents and how they know where the stops are and when the stops are. Eventually, we will be working with TransFinder for a viewfinder process, which really will allow parents to actually see in real time where their kids are actually at. That was a big selling point and a big part. That won't likely happen for another few months as they're working right now just to get Zonar and GPS working so that the information is more readily utilized even just for us, where are bus stops, where are the buses right now, those kinds of things in real time. But that ultimately will be rolled out to parents through, so that they can see that as well. Through the implementation, there was indication the week right before school that it's actually just days before school started and over the Labor Day weekend that there were some issues with communication between TransFinder and Infinite Campus as well as Dairyland. And so what was happening is we had 4K student routes being inadvertently eliminated from the routing sheets. A couple of times it happened, and they had to go back in and reroute those by hand. There was also a huge volume of alternative and secondary addresses and some boundary line issues that needed to be worked through. But this did create an issue that that Dairyland ended up not having about 58 homes not routed within the system, and so that created an issue for Dairyland to let people know that that was an issue for them and to be patient, and families were, and we very much appreciate that. Over the course of the next week, that first week of school, we did have some high volumes of calls and, just the normal thing that can happen during the first week on top of the other issues that were occurring. So it was compounded. The second week, the volume of calls were much better, so the timeliness of their callbacks to families was much better. But I know that that was an issue for Dairyland to keep up on those kinds of things. So at this point, we did make some changes to the high school routes 10 minutes earlier. You will see that we are, as noted, we did need to look at some crowding on some buses, not overcrowding. There are no buses from Dairyland that are over the 71, not at all, but they're around 61 or 62, and so we're trying to alleviate some of that crowding at middle school, just because if they're bringing their band and they're taking a friend home and all of that kind of stuff, we want to just make sure that there's enough space for them. So we will be making some changes first to Lake Danoon toward the end of this week, and then to a few, there's not as many at Muskego Lakes to balance out those routes a little bit better. So we're not done with everything. We've still got some work to do, and Dairyland is working hard to make sure that things are going to be up and running well. I don't know, Pat, if this would be a great time for you just to give a couple of bullet points of our planning for next year and what, how we're preparing so that next year's work with Dairyland is smooth and
Sure. Good evening.
My name's Pat Starkin. I work for Edgelog. It's a software company. I also wrote the RFP for Muskego the last 2 times it went out for RFP, so I am pretty familiar with Muskego. My kids grew up here. I've lived here for over 20 years, so it's worked out really well. I've had a pretty good relationship with Julie, and we work well together. So one of the things that I suggested after we went through the RFP process to Julie was to purchase a software package, and TransFinder was selected. And the reason why you want to have a software package is when Lamers left, they took everything with them. So when Dairyland started to bust, they virtually started from scratch, and with very little information that was left for them, and it was quite difficult for them. Moving forward with a software package, and if you're familiar with busing at all, I know there's some here that are, the planning for the fall actually starts in March. So with Dairyland coming on in July and the software package coming in July, that was not able to happen. So moving forward from year on and year on, whether you have that bus company or don't have that bus company, we can start planning for the next school year in March by using planning areas. And that right there will take care of a lot of issues that are going to happen at the beginning of the school year. Your second grader is now going to roll into third grade at the same school. They're going to have the same bus stop. They're going to have the same route, unless it starts getting over capacity, and that's when the bus company can start looking at that stuff. As kids start to enroll in the school district, those kids can start being brought into the program, and those kids can get routed. So the routing that happens in August, it should be minimal, because you will have every kid, you'll have 80% of your kids that are going to roll from one grade to the next. Your transition years, you'll be able to have routed by the end of April. Your transition years, your 5th grader going to 6th grade because they changed schools, your 8th grader going to 9th grade because they changed schools. And all of those kids will be routed by the end of April this next year, which will really help the whole process out, and it's going to be really good for Muskego. We ran into a lot of speed bumps this year, one with a new software company, one with a new bus company. We've worked through the majority of those issues. They weren't all Dairyland's fault, and the bottom line is we always think that Dairyland's the problem because the bus isn't there on time. And some of the things that we found that maybe weren't their fault were the arrival times. The bus times and the bell times in the program weren't what we needed them to be. They were what TransFinder thought they needed to be, and they weren't accurate for us. And we caught one of them last week, which is the arrival time of the high school routes. And so as soon as we moved that to the correct time, all the runs just quickly started to fall in line. The number of late buses at every school started to really slow down and stop. We still have some work to do. As Kelly mentioned, we've rerouted Muskego Lakes today, this afternoon. And,
Lake to Noon. Lake to Noon.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Lake to Noon was rerouted today, and so we have one bus that we need to keep an eye on because it has 61 students on it, but all the other buses are like in the 58 to 51 range, which for a middle school is right where you want them to be. And then we're going to look at Muskego Lakes next week, excuse me, and get that corrected if there's any issues there. And we're just chipping away at all of the issues that we've had. So we expect the rest of the year to go quite a bit smoother, and the following years, which is really, really more exciting for us. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm happy to sit down. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pat. All right. All right, so that is the update on the 1920 school year.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
When are they going to have a facility in Muskego as our contract dictates?
They are, and I don't know, Pat, if you know more than I do, but last week, end of last week, what I understood is that they do have 2 facilities that they're looking at, one for a terminal and one for the actual operations. And so I think they're just going through the process, hopefully soon. But
The plan was to have it before the winter hit,
yeah,
the snowfall.
yes, please.
Okay.
We want
Because
that.
currently the buses are coming from where?
Waukesha.
Okay.
59 and Greenfield. Greenfield and 163.
So that could be an issue come winter.
Come winter, that's why the plan is to try to get it before the winter hits and the snow hits the roads.
And then what is our if it doesn't happen before winter, that seems like a lofty goal, but if it doesn't happen by winter, what are we going to do at that point? I mean, is there any
Pat, you have
penalty for the company not following the contract?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, there is. As you're probably familiar with, though, anytime that you go out for an RFP, the first thing that every vendor asks you are what are the penalties that you assessed? Because that's what they put in the system, and whether you think you're getting a penalty or not, you're paying for yourself. So we kind of, I worked with Julie a little bit and asked them, you know, if we're running a half hour late on a bus because of the snow or whatever, don't bill us for that. So, and working with them, they will do that. Virtually, if snow falls, we're going to ask them to start their drivers earlier if they don't have a location in Muskego, because they need to still be at the first stop on time. And if they have to start their drivers earlier to do that, then so be it.
So if I recall our contract included gas. Are we paying for all the gas mileage from Waukesha to here and stuff? I mean, because we shouldn't be. 'Cause
Right.
our
Right.
So in the contract, it says within 10 minutes of the school boundary. So it's borderline. It's borderline on whether we should pay for it or not. It's not planned to happen for a long time. So if it continues on, it certainly could be talked about.
I don't know what that means. What's within 10 minutes of the school border?
That was part of the RFP process where they could get a building. If they couldn't secure the building that Lamers had because Lamers decided to hang on to it, if it was within 10 minutes of the school district boundary, wherever the building would be, was what we agreed to.
But at this point in time, though, if we're taking the buses from Waukesha to here, are we paying for all that gas mileage from?
Currently, yes. But it's not planned for it to be a long-term solution.
So coming back around, any opportunity to, assess damages to, what our contract indicates, we would come back around that in the next week or so.
We need to.
Okay, if we need to. Okay. Anything else?
I don't know if you know the answer to this question or not. Are they all, because the incident today was about substitute driver and stuff. Are they are they getting to the point where they're fully, employed, all the drivers? Or are we really dealing with a lot of substitutes?
Well,
Or fill-ins, or whatever you call them?
Sure. They have 39 routes today, where Lamers had 41 routes. So we're actually doing better than we had. As far as the number of drivers, they have more than enough drivers. They always have a couple of drivers that are on standby. So as an example, today we had a situation on a bus where it was running quite a bit late for whatever reason. They took that standby driver and started the second portion of that driver's run. So they picked up where that person should have been at that time. So then that person did that first run, and they did their last run, and then someone else did the middle run. So they do have enough drivers. They also, every day we've had enough drivers. We have not had any call that has said, you have 39 routes and we have 37 drivers. That has not been the case. If it gets really bad, they start streeting the office staff. That did happen at least on one day, but other than that, they've always had more than enough drivers.
Thank you.
It would be nice to get a follow-up, though, on that gas stuff, though, I guess, because
Sure.
if we, not to beat a dead horse, but yeah, and we appreciate all of the efforts that the administration is doing, that you're doing, Pat, Dairyland, the patience of all of our parents. However, if the impact of that is a greater cost to us, that would seem a bit not really in parity with what I think we would like to see. So I think at least that we should probably just make sure what that is. But
Sure.
outside of that, we do appreciate the parents and everyone's efforts trying to get this worked out. It's unfortunate the routes just don't follow, but that's business. And I think some highlights here that Dr. Thompson said this, what what we're hoping to do with Infinite Campus, enroll all of this technology and innovate with where parents can see real time where their student is. And whether it be, we just had a weather briefing here, and certainly if you have inclement weather coming in, you're going to want to see that stuff. So, I mean, these things may not be happening now, but I'm sure when they happen, parents will be appreciative of that. And so I just, there's probably some time to get there, but thank you. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
So-
appreciate it. Okay. We'll follow up. Okay, the next item, and the last item, is just the contributions to the profession, and thank you, Jeremiah, for being out there. Appreciate it. And that concludes the oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the annual booklet review. Sorry. Okay, so as I pass these out, I did mention, I think to each of you, this is a new program. We have actually Kate and Jamie working on a new sort of look to our annual booklet, an opportunity to, again, kind of show the best of us. All the information will be in here as it was in years past. It's just a little different format, and some of the information isn't here yet. Julie is going to have everything in here and to you by the end of this week. So she said on Friday she'll have more information to share with you, and she'll just email it out to you so you can see all the updated documents that'll be in there. If as you go through it over the next, we don't have to have this in until October 1st. For printing. So if you, as you go through it and as Julie updates things and you have comments or questions about things, feel free to email both her and I so we can keep track of what that is, and we'll make any adjustments, okay? We want to make sure that this reflects and is, reflects what you want the public to see. So, any questions just overall?
Is it the form you're using some more thing or not?
No.
No, okay.
What is it called?
InDesign, Adobe InDesign.
Oh, okay.
And Kate is the expert for sure. So she started this and then before her trip and plans on coming back and finessing it. She's very good and very comfortable with InDesign.
So Julie just has
The
to,
one that's doing all the.
yes, she is. Yeah.
Please make sure that the dollar bill's in there, though it's not here now.
It is not in here right now. Right. Just make
Dollar
sure the
bill.
dollar bill. Yep, and that goes on pages.
Yes, I like that.
I do.
There is a spot on the yellow.
You can't spend it.
No, but I like that dollar bill. It's the easiest piece for, a golden retriever can look at it and understand it. It's perfect.
Those will be on this page, just so you know. This
Yep.
page, the dollar bills would be down below, right here, okay? Once she gets the percentage of the total budget, that's how she splits up that dollar, okay?
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. All right, now the superintendent report is concluded.
Thank you,
Sorry
Dr.
about that.
Thompson. All right, moving on, item 5, other reports, President's report. I have nothing this time. We'll go on to other board member reports. As I look,
Okay, you can
Go ahead.
I was
Tracy?
just gonna say, they're gonna try for the third time to get me orientated to CISA 1. They canceled it 3 times, so tomorrow I'm supposed to get my orientation at 5 o'clock. And hopefully I will be all up.
thank you for doing that, too.
Yeah,
That's
they just,
funny.
you can't. And I didn't realize that the board is very touchy when it comes to having a forum. Like, there's a lot of like moving parts and stuff, so
okay.
a lot of times it just gets scheduled to the next.
So thank you for staying with that. It's important, so I
Endurance.
appreciate that. Cassandra?
Well, it was over time.
Brett?
I've got a couple things. First of all, thank you to Kate Brown. She helped me with the video that is going to be presented at all the regional meetings. So you guys will get a good laugh maybe this year. No, she did a very wonderful job editing it and getting it all together. And then I attended the WSB Board of Directors meeting this past weekend. The two big subjects that came up was teacher shortage, which is affecting, I think, pretty much every district in the state. I don't think we have too much of a problem, but we still have some issues, I know.
Yeah. Especially hard to fill positions.
Yes. And the other is, we're approaching the WSB's centennial celebration, and we're starting to ask districts to get things together, whether it's a story, pictures, artifacts, anything they'd like to contribute. So if there's anything that we would like to contribute for that.
And they're giving it back, right?
They will be-
Because
yeah,
we
they will
talked
be-
about the jacket that Jeremiah got from the
Yeah.
class of
Yes,
1950.
they will give everything back,
Okay.
I hope.
I hope
No, they will,
that's the plan.
yes.
That it?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Brett. Eric? Anything? Eric? Okay. All right. All right, and then we'll move on to committee reports. We have none. Move on to item 6, resolution action items.
Motion to approve board goals for 2019, 2020.
Motion is in order. You.
So moved. Okay, second. Didn't hear you.
Thank you. Discussion.
These are the same board goals that were brought forward in August in discussion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item A, board goals passes. Item B, approval civil design of Muskego High School parking lot.
Motion to approve R.A. Smith to design the parking lot south of the stadium parking lot at a cost of $38,800.
Motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So just to piggyback on what we talked about in the committee of the whole, over the last few years, we've designed out the stadium over at the high school, have a concession stand, a restroom, expanded press box and bleachers. And as part of the placement of the concessions and restroom, the idea at the time was that we would have a parking lot just south of that. So when you're out there, it does feel like that entryway is a bit out in space. You kind of got to walk around all the edges and funnel in through that entrance. So the idea would be to increase ADA accessibility to the stadium, also to the softball diamonds, which do not have ADA access to them. And as part of this project, really overall improve the stormwater management of the entire site. So we are maxed out for our stormwater. This past week, granted it was an amazingly large rainfall that we had, but the entire lower parking lot had almost 3 feet of standing water that had crept up into the kitchen and different areas of the school. So if there are ways that this project could create a retention pond, possibly on the other side of the softball diamonds, to account for more impervious space, that'd be ideal. And even more ideal if we're talking about master planning, possibly accounting for an expansion of the facility into the future. So if we were to make a pond, possibly upsizing it to account for any other expansion. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. When we started thinking about this project, in order to really get it done this upcoming summer, if that's a desire of the board, we should really be starting now. So we put the project out to RFP with 4 different vendors. The bid tab is below, and R.A. Smith won. Each one of the vendors dice up how they give back their proposal. So there's one, it looks higher, but it actually included lighting design, which I'm sure that the city would require us to have, and we'd probably want to have lights in that parking lot. So when the game lets out, or games let out, that the parking lots are lit. This would also serve the tennis courts, not just football. And we also made the concession stand double-sided and the restrooms double-sided with interior locking doors, so that if somebody were to access from the outside, say softball or tennis, they don't have access into the stadium. We can block off half of the restrooms. So really trying to be inclusive of the entire parking situation. I did include a parking lot picture, which we talked about in the committee of the whole, which isn't characteristic of every football game we have, but we're definitely having people park on grass all over the place during our large events. One idea for funding of this project could be to use the sale of one of the schools. In talking to Julie about that, as far as the financing part of it, if we use the sale of a school in the year that we received it, it would have less of a tax impact than if we just put that into fund balance. So all open for discussion.
So the only thing that I don't really want to proceed with this tonight is we don't know what we're going to use to finance it. So I think we need an answer as to how we're going to finance it before we spend $38,000 on designing something that we might not finance. So one question I do have for Jeremiah is, why did Specialty Engineering Group not provide a lighting design?
Well, throughout all of the bid processes that I'm a part of, I try to send out questions as they come up. So one of the questions that R.A. Smith asked was, is this going to include lighting? And that wasn't part of the RFP. So I sent out to all the people that were bidding, yeah, likely we were going to need to include lighting in this project. So as I'm answering or sending out questions for clarification, the bidders can come back and ask more questions. Specialty Engineering did not reach out regarding lighting. And then in their bid, they omitted, it said does not include lighting. So it was really their due diligence. Specialty Engineering does a lot of roof work for us. I've never used them for a parking lot. R.A. Smith is really the gold standard in a lot of commercial parking lots. So there wasn't any negotiating after I received the bids. This was as received.
No, I kind of figured that the RFP didn't include lighting. That makes me a little bit concerned about accepting bids. I mean, if Specialty Engineering Group came back and said, RFP didn't say submit it, and one of the reasons we're not approving them is because they didn't submit lighting. I'm a little concerned about that, but.
I will say there's a little bit to be said about the bidding process and the thoroughness of people that I work with through the process. So one of them may have came out and actually visited the site and did some preliminary work. Specialty Engineering, I heard nothing from the point that they said they were interested to the point that I got the bid in the mail. So there's definitely a level of engagement through all different aspects of all different bidding projects, and I always appreciate when people are more engaged and aren't just throwing a number out there. So, but I get it.
And with regard to your comment about where this money would come from, are you indicating that the board might not be comfortable utilizing the sale of one of our properties for this project?
Yeah, especially since we've had discussion about putting that back into loan payments, both of the sales of both properties. Initially, we decided to sell those properties with the understanding that that money would go back to the taxpayers in payment to the loans on our referendum. So I don't know, this group might be, this isn't the same group that had those discussions, so
I was going to say, I don't recall.
they may have a different view of that, but I guess I'm just going back to what we discussed when we approved to go to referendum. That was part of our discussion.
And part of the discussion also, just the utilizing, and whichever way the board would like to, just as a reminder, if we utilize the funds in the year that we receive them, it wouldn't roll into fund balance and then have to be utilized in some other capacity later that might have an impact on our levy. So that was the most viable from an administrative point of view of how we could get that fourth tier completed, would be to use a part of the.
But you could also make loan payments the same year that you bring the money in also. So I guess there has to be some conversation about that. I mean, if the board as a whole or the majority want to do that, that's fine. I mean, I don't have any issue. I'm just going to give you the history at that time of what the discussions were about the sale of the two schools and where that money was projected to go at one point in time in the past. So I don't know if we should have that discussion first. We're not prepared to discuss that tonight. I don't think we really could discuss that until Julie's back. I don't think that would be appropriate to do that because she knows more of the ins and outs on if we spent it or if we, like you were saying, if we use that money for this, what the tax Tracy?
Well, I was curious when you're talking about, and granted, I don't know all these funds and all the thing, but wasn't there a fund that we needed to use the money before July, and then it wasn't available after? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Funds that we would have to use prior to?
I think she's talking, what is it, Fund 41, where our capital projects fund, where we
The one
have to
that-
put it in before
Yeah.
July, but then we can't utilize it until 2020.
Until 2021.
2021. I think that might be what you're referring to.
Okay,
Well, there was another one
1.6.
too. There was the interest that had to be used by
right.
a specific time, right?
And the interest on that was utilized for Lakeview.
Right, and I think that was used to support the lake. Yeah, so that may have been it.
Yeah.
The question I have is, so if we kicked it off this year, what would be the use? I mean, there's how many games left? And
This wouldn't be done for this year for sure. It would start the design. The design process would probably take till January. January, we'd go to bid. And then probably, if we had a funding mechanism, if the sale goes through or whatever the funding is, probably start in the spring. There would be a benefit to going in spring versus summer because everybody wants to get, especially school projects are done over summer. So if we were able to start earlier, the better. That's why I thought the timing was a little more upfront, but I totally get the
no,
conversation.
I mean, I appreciate one course of action may be to just defer this until we can have a discussion on just when our sales are almost complete and we have I guess, more complete picture of where the capital is going. It doesn't sound like that would impact you completely, right? I mean, if we were to give guidance shortly, sometime toward the end of the year, I mean, would that still?
I think that would keep us on pace for summer construction.
Okay, so.
Do you have a projected cost?
In talking to some of the engineers through the project, they were thinking around 750, and that's because of the stormwater impact. If it was just pure parking lot, probably 400,000, but we may have to do lights. The city might make us do some landscaping elements to it. We definitely want to consider having some sort of netting for the softball diamonds so that when people are hitting balls, they're not coming onto cars. So there's some
I
intricacies.
was actually thinking about that with the tennis thing, having that be, it kind of makes me nervous because I've been to many, many tennis meets and having that driveway through there, it doesn't give, I mean, on your one, from this R.A. Smith one on page, I think it was 7, or so, it didn't even factor in like where the stands would be for tennis and stuff like that. It just encapsulated the whole thing.
Yeah, that was my
I mean,
amazing architecture usually blocks over a
I
picture.
think you're right, Tracy. I think maybe we might want to think about having an ability to close that during tennis matches.
something, it just makes me nervous.
Yeah, because it looks like it's pretty close to both the tennis courts and the seating.
So did you gate that, do you think? or
I
just
suppose you could gate it on
or-
each end.
That was the intent. It's have it
Okay.
gated, but then open it during critical times where we would be
Oh,
passing.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
because
stuff.
there's not a lot of space between the football field and the tennis courts.
For sure.
So, and then to put a two-way roadway in between there, that's not a lot of,
Yeah.
I don't think there'd be any landscaping requirements. Maybe just along the tennis court, there may be a need for some, like, just a little berm or some identifiable feature so you can't
Sure.
cut into it, right? Or fence even. But you probably have to put that in there anyway, because you already fenced the courts. So,
Would the whole thing be curbed?
We'd like to curb and gutter it, yeah.
Because I'm thinking they would
Oh,
almost
then that'd be fine
require,
then.
they would require the curb by the tennis courts, I'm sure, with pedestrians.
because do you know, I mean, the runoff would probably be, and we've got drain off, I mean, we've got.
I'll go south to the street.
Okay, so we've got storm sewer there that would, or are we going to drain
well, that's
into
where
a?
that parking lot is.
We would need to be draining probably south of those softball diamonds into some sort of retention pond.
Okay.
Unless we did underground water storage, but it's a little pricey. And then right behind that, not pictured, is a stream. And then also
Okay.
to the west of that is another retention pond.
So then we would just somehow have to get the water there. Okay, I mean, I think if this won't, the impact seems very light if we just defer this until we come back with some, what financial mechanism we're
I think we
going to
have
use.
to address
So-
the parking issue because it was ridiculous at that Marquette game with people and parking and on Racine Avenue, and it's just not safe for us to have big events like that. I mean, if we want to get our track meets up to par and stuff, to have people park on It's just not safe. I don't feel safe having that.
Yeah, and I think it can be addressed. We just need to
Yeah.
determine the financial mechanism to do it right. And then there's really no impact to the current season either way. So, but.
So what about if it came back the first meeting in November? Because then you're not, I mean, when Julie gets back, I think she's going to be pretty busy on the last meeting in October.
Sure. I can
Would that
absolutely
be
do
enough time for you to? Okay.
Jeremiah, let me ask you real quick, just was it the soccer field parking lot? Looking at the picture you provided, it doesn't look very full. Does that fill up during the games? Do people know they can park there?
During our busiest time, the picture was actually taken about 15 minutes before the game started, so there was still,
There were still people?
yeah, it was pretty.
So people know they can park down there?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of staff actually choose to park over there and walk towards the field. And granted, if we continue to have the success we do, there's no guarantee that we're not going to have a lot of people funneling all over our property, but this really does alleviate some of that. It helps with stormwater management, increases ADA accessibility, and also if we do any expansion to the high school, helps build in the parking that we may take up, so.
Okay, some,
So, motion to defer until
thank you.
November?
Yeah, well, we can defer it and then,
No set time?
correct.
Okay,
So we
motion to
defer it, it'll be on the agenda, the next school board, and then if there is an opportunity to address it, fine. If not, we just defer it again. And would be the process. So we've got a motion to approve, second, and then Brett,
Motion to
just second, a motion to defer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. There's no discussion on a motion to defer, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The item is deferred. Thank you. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Excuse me a minute here. All right. All right, moving on. Item 6C, gifts, grants, and bequests.
A thanks to Lake Point Church and Fox River Church for having teams of volunteers help with sprucing up planting beds at Muskego High School and Mill Valley this August. A new sign with concrete walkway were installed at the Muskego High School Stadium, coordinated by the Gridiron Club, thanks to the following for their contributions of time and materials: Bufus Corporation, Total Outdoor Maintenance, Ace Ready Mix, Muskego Concrete Construction, Mead, Landmark Studio and Design, Graphic Innovations LLC, Kyle Waller, David Straszewski, Paul Pearden, Dave Brent, Tony Jokey, Maston, Lawan, Karen Brent, and Shelley Waller. Milwaukee Tools donated 6 pallets, each consisting of about 50 tools valued at approximately $100 per tool. Approximate value of their donation, $30,000. Is that what we saw on the tables down there?
Yes.
Nice.
They're really nice.
And they're at the middle school, too, so that's a third of what you...
That's a third of it?
That's a
Oh, what we saw at the
third.
high school? That's a third?
That's a
And then they're at the
third.
middle schools?
Yes, both
Wow.
middle schools
Nice,
received.
that was really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow. You good?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we
Thank
need a
you.
motion, don't we, to accept?
We already did.
Did we?
Yeah.
Motion, I missed it.
No, we didn't.
Really didn't?
I'll motion.
All right. A motion is in order.
I motion.
Is there a second? All right. Discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, discussion items. 2019, 2020 budget. Placeholder? All right. I'm sure we'll get more when Julie returns. Item 7B, Neola Board policies.
So this is our first opportunity of the board see this version, these policies for the first time. They'll again come back 2 more times for the board to review. I did receive a couple of suggestions from Brett. Thank you, Brett, just to provide some clarity to policy 6152, which is the student fees, fines, and charges. In the very beginning of the policy, it talks about the district, and we're going to be adding, if it makes sense for the board, administration. So it'd be district administration determines that student is in a serious financial need, so it isn't just ambiguous. The other suggestions from Brett were tied to the policy around cash handling and deposits, which is new for the district. The first two sentences, it talks about the board, and it will be specific recommendations provided to the board from the district's independent auditor. And then again, it talks specifically about the district again, or not specifically, broadly, and we'll put business department in there again, just so that there's clarity about what department is dealing with the cash handling and deposits, that process. So those were the only ones that I received.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you. And if there's anything, again, between now and the next time we bring this forward, which will be October 14th, feel free to give me, email me or call me, and we can talk through the changes, and we can then bring it forward for the board for recommendation.
So then these will be for resolution action in November. So
It'll be, we'll come back in October, actually, first, for resolution action, and then consent.
Second one, okay,
Yep,
got it.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, information follow-up. Item A, financials.
I just have,
Yep.
I don't think it's under, let me see what's
Is that-
on here.
Is it A? Item 8A.
Just under miscellaneous business,
All
I
right.
just want to ask a question.
Okay. Item 8B, on-site clinic. Let's see all your notes there. C, personal information. And item D, communications and miscellaneous business is authorized by law.
Dr. Thompson, I meant to pull this out of consent just to get an understanding of what it is,
Sure.
but I didn't, and I apologize, but if you could just explain it. So under consent G, the CISA amendment, what is PLC coaching?
That is professional learning communities, so one of our big initiatives that actually is a carryover from last year. So how this all started is, we had a grant from the Department of Public Instruction through CISA with, you might recall, Test Corners in Lake Dunoon. It was called the SPIDIG grant. And for 5 years, we had a coach working with our individuals at Test Corners and at Lake Dunoon around developing professional learning communities, PLCs. Over 5 years, we showed last year the dramatic increase that we saw in student achievement and gap closing in those two schools. And we attribute the bright spot of what changed at those two schools differently than any other school was their work around professional learning communities. So we chose that last year as a focus area for us. We opened it up to the other 4 schools, and they all came on board, and we did coaching with them last year. Baylane Elementary decided that they wanted to get on board again because even though Test Corners had it, Country Meadows and Muskego Elementary did not. And so we have some staff coming from those 2 buildings as well. So she said, and just dealing with a larger school, they want to get back into it again. So that's the history of it.
Okay, I think I remember us going through that. The only question I have is how do we get 50 days of training in a school year?
It's 6 buildings, and they started, so it's all 6 of our buildings, and they have, what is it, how many, 8 days that they are meeting with the coach. Some it's just with their leadership team, it's not all, and some days happen during the summer,
Okay,
in August.
So it's not truly an 8-hour day for every staff
No.
at the class?
Nope,
At
nope.
the school?
So it's like coaching the coaches, like you get a group and you tell them, teach them, and then they go back to their class grades.
I
Yeah.
I couldn't understand how
Yeah.
you're getting
How many?
everybody together for 50 days.
No, thank you for the opportunity to clarify.
Okay, moving on, item 9, adjournment. Motion is ordered to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? We are adjourned.